I was standing at my kitchen window in Calgary, watching the January snow fall in thick, silent sheets, when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I hadn't seen in 14 years. Dad's gone. Funeral Saturday. Don't bother coming. My brother, Graham, always direct, always cold. I set the phone down on the granite counter and stared at those 9 words until they blurred. My father, Robert Mackenzie, dead at 78. 14 years since I'd heard his voice. 14 years since the fight that fractured our family like dropped glass. I was 63 years old. I'd built a quiet life here in Calgary after leaving the family business in Toronto. I worked as a consultant now, helped small manufacturers optimize their supply chains. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. It was mine. The funeral was small. I flew to Toronto anyway, despite Graham's text. My sister Claire was there, standing stiff-backed in a black dress that looked expensive. Graham wore the same gray suit he'd probably worn to every board meeting for the past decade. They didn't acknowledge me when I walked in. I sat in the back row of the funeral home chapel and listened to a minister who'd never met my father deliver generic platitudes about a man he knew nothing about. After the service, I approached them in the parking lot. The February wind cut through my coat. Claire. Graham. Claire's eyes flicked to me, then away. Graham just stared, his jaw working like he was chewing something bitter. You actually came, Graham said. He was my father too. Was he? Graham's voice had an edge that could cut steel. Funny. You stopped acting like it in 2012. I felt the old anger rising, but I pushed it down. I was too tired for this. Too old. I'm not here to fight. Good. Then you can leave. Graham turned toward a black Mercedes. Claire followed. Wait. I called after them. What about the estate? The will? Graham stopped. Turned. There was something in his expression I couldn't read. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. You'll hear from the lawyers, he said. Eventually. They drove away. I stood in that parking lot until I couldn't feel my fingers. 3 weeks passed. I went back to Calgary, back to my routines. Work, gym, the Tim Hortons on 17th Avenue where I'd grab coffee most mornings. I didn't expect to hear from anyone in Toronto. I'd made my peace with being cut out years ago. Then the letter came. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I collected my mail from the lobby of my condo building. Bills, flyers, and a thick cream envelope with a return address from Hartley and Associates, barristers and solicitors, Toronto. Inside was a letter on heavy paper, professional, formal. It requested my presence at their offices on Bay Street at 2 o'clock the following Friday to discuss matters pertaining to the estate of Robert James Mackenzie. I called the number listed. A receptionist with a pleasant voice confirmed the appointment. May I ask what this is regarding? I said. I'm afraid Mr. Hartley will need to discuss that with you in person. Mr. Mackenzie, will you be able to attend? I looked at my calendar. I'd have to fly out Thursday night, miss a client meeting, but something in my gut told me this mattered. Yes, I said. I'll be there. The offices of Hartley and Associates occupied the 42nd floor of a glass tower in Toronto's financial district. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Ontario. The furniture was the kind of expensive minimalism that whispered money. Thomas Hartley was probably 50, graying at the temples, with the careful manner of someone who dealt with family disputes for a living. He shook my hand, offered coffee, which I declined, and gestured to a leather chair. Thank you for coming, Mr. Mackenzie. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. I'll get straight to the point. Your father's will was quite specific. He left detailed instructions. Hartley opened a folder. You're aware your father built Mackenzie Industrial Supply from a small hardware distributor into one of the largest suppliers in Ontario? I'm aware. I'd worked there for 22 years before the falling out. The business is currently valued at approximately $18 million. Your father also owned significant real estate holdings. The family home in Rosedale, a cottage in Muskoka, investment properties. In total, the estate is worth approximately $23 million. I felt something tighten in my chest. $23 million. I'd known Dad had done well, but this was beyond what I'd imagined. Your father's will, Hartley continued, names you as the primary beneficiary. The room seemed to tilt slightly. What? You inherit the business, the properties, and the majority of the liquid assets. There are provisions for your siblings, but they're comparatively modest. Your brother Graham receives $200,000. Your sister Claire receives $200,000. The rest goes to you. I couldn't speak. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of this. Graham ran the business now. He'd been grooming himself to take over for years. Claire worked in the marketing department. They'd stayed. They'd been loyal. I'd left. This doesn't make sense, I finally said. Graham's been running the company for over a decade. I'm aware. Hartley's expression was carefully neutral. Your father was also aware. This will was drafted 4 years ago and reviewed annually. He never changed his mind. Have you told Graham and Claire? Not yet. Per your father's instructions, I was to meet with you first, alone. Why? Hartley reached into the folder and pulled out another envelope. This one wasn't from the law firm. It was smaller, personal. My name was written on the front in my father's angular handwriting. He asked me to give you this, Hartley said. He said you'd understand after you read it. I took the envelope. My hands were shaking slightly. There's one more thing, Hartley said. Your brother contacted me 2 days ago. He said he'd like to meet with you. He mentioned he has a proposal. A proposal? He didn't elaborate. But he was quite insistent that you meet before we proceed with probate. He suggested this Saturday, 2 days from now. I stared at the envelope in my hands, my father's final words to me. 14 years of silence, and now this. Tell him I'll meet him, I said. I didn't open the letter right away. I went back to my hotel room, ordered room service I didn't eat, and sat by the window watching the city lights. The envelope sat on the desk, like something alive. Finally, around 11 that night, I opened it. The letter was 3 pages, handwritten. My father's writing had gotten shakier, but it was unmistakably his. David, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry we never fixed things between us. I'm sorry for a lot of things, more than I can fit in this letter. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I made a mistake with the will. You're thinking Graham and Claire deserve more. Maybe you're right, but I need you to understand why I did this. When you left in 2012, you were right. I was wrong. You saw the bribery, the corner cutting, the way we were treating our workers. You told me we needed to change, and I told you to mind your place. I chose profit over principle. I chose keeping Graham happy over doing what was right. After you left, I kept thinking you'd come back, that you'd apologize, but you didn't. And slowly, I started to realize you'd been right all along. The business we built wasn't something to be proud of. It was something I should have been ashamed of. I tried to change things. I really did. But Graham fought me every step. He liked things the way they were. He'd learned my worst habits, not my better ones. When I tried to implement better labor practices, he went around me. When I wanted to stop the under-the-table payments to procurement managers, he told me I was getting soft. Claire backed him. She always did. She wanted the money more than she wanted to be able to sleep at night. I should have fired them both. I should have brought you back, but I was a coward. They were there, and you weren't. It was easier to let things slide. 4 years ago, I got diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. The doctor said I had 2 years, maybe 3 with treatment. That's when I changed the will. I knew I needed to give the company to someone who would do the right thing with it. Someone who'd stood up for principle when it cost him everything. That person was you, David. It was always you. I know this puts you in an impossible situation. Graham and Claire will fight this. They'll say I wasn't in my right mind. They'll make it ugly. I'm sorry for that, but I trust you to make things right. The business is broken, son. It needs someone willing to tear it down and rebuild it properly. Someone who'll put people before profit. Someone like the man I should have been. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope you can forgive me anyway. Not for my sake, for yours. Carrying anger is like carrying stones. Eventually, it just weighs you down. I love you. I always did. Even when I was too proud to say it. Dad. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. I didn't cry. I'd done my crying for my father years ago, mourning the relationship we'd never have. But something in my chest felt like it was cracking open. Saturday morning. I met Graham and Claire at a restaurant in Yorkville. Expensive, discreet, the kind of place where business deals happened over Eggs Benedict. They were already seated when I arrived. Graham stood, shook my hand with the firm grip of a man making a point. Claire offered a tight smile. We ordered coffee, made small talk about the weather, about my flight. None of us mentioned the funeral. Finally, Graham set down his cup and leaned forward. I'm going to be direct, David. I know what Dad's will says. Hartley told you? He didn't have to. I knew Dad was planning something like this. He'd been acting strange the last few years. Guilty. He talked about you sometimes, about how you'd been right. Claire picked at her croissant, not meeting my eyes. So you know I'm inheriting the business, I said. We know. Graham's jaw tightened. And we want to make you an offer. He pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Inside was a contract. $5 million, Graham said. Cash. We'll buy out your share of the estate. You sign everything over to Claire and me. Clean. Simple. No lawyers. No probate. No fighting. I looked at the contract. It was already drawn up. Professional. They'd been planning this. $5 million, I said slowly. It's more than generous, Claire said. Her voice was quiet, but there was steel underneath. You've been gone for 14 years, David. We've been the ones running the company. We've been the ones taking care of Dad. You don't even know how the business works anymore. You sign by next Friday, Graham said, and we transfer the money immediately. You can walk away. Go back to Calgary. Go back to your consulting work. You'll be rich, and you won't have to deal with any of this. I looked at my brother. Really looked at him. He had Dad's eyes. But there was something hard in them that Dad had never had, even at his worst. Why the rush? I asked. Why next Friday specifically? Graham's expression didn't change. The business has obligations. Deals pending. We need clarity. Uncertainty is bad for everyone. Hartley said probate could take months. It could, or we could settle this now, family to family. No courts, no publicity. Graham leaned back. Think about it, David. $5 million. You never wanted the business anyway. You left, remember? You said we were all corrupt. Well, here's your chance to wash your hands of it. Take the money. Let us handle the mess. I picked up the contract, flipped through it. It was thorough, ironclad. I'd seen enough legal documents in my consulting work to recognize quality drafting. I need time to think, I said. You have until Friday. Graham stood. But David, don't overthink this. You're 63 years old. How many more years do you really want to spend fighting? This is the easy way. Take it. They left. I sat there with my coffee and the contract, watching the Saturday morning crowd drift past the window. That afternoon, I went to Hartley's office. He wasn't surprised to see me. They made you an offer, he said. It wasn't a question. $5 million. They want me to sign by Friday. Hartley nodded slowly. May I speak candidly, Mr. Mackenzie? Please. Your father anticipated this. He told me your siblings would try to pressure you to sign away your inheritance. He told me to tell you something if it happened. What? He said, tell David to ask why they're in such a hurry. Tell him to ask what happens to the business on February 28th. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What happens on February 28th? I don't know. Your father wouldn't tell me. He said you'd need to find out for yourself. He said it was important that you see it with your own eyes, not just hear it from a lawyer. That's 9 days from now. Yes. The signing deadline your brother gave you is in 6 days. 3 days before the 28th. I left Hartley's office and walked. Toronto in February is brutal, but I needed the cold. Needed to think. I called my secretary back in Calgary. Sarah, I need you to do something for me. I need you to pull everything you can find about Mackenzie Industrial Supply. News articles, financial filings, anything public. Everything? Everything from the last 2 years. And Sarah, I need it by tomorrow morning. You'll have it tonight. I spent Sunday morning in my hotel room reading. Sarah had sent me 47 documents, financial reports, industry news, a few mentions in the business section of the Toronto Star. Most of it was mundane. Revenue figures, new contracts, the usual corporate announcements. But then I found something interesting. A mention in a trade publication from 6 months ago. Mackenzie Industrial Supply announced a major restructuring plan, pending final approval from the board of directors. The restructuring would involve consolidating several divisions and potentially closing the Windsor facility, which employs 120 workers. Company President Graham Mackenzie cited efficiency and competitiveness concerns. I kept digging, found another article from 3 months ago. Sources close to Mackenzie Industrial Supply suggest the company is in advanced negotiations to sell to American conglomerate Sterling Holdings. If completed, the deal would be one of the largest acquisitions in the Canadian industrial supply sector this year. Sterling Holdings has a reputation for aggressive cost-cutting following acquisitions. The pieces started clicking together. I called Hartley. The business. Is there a sale pending? Silence on the other end. Then, how did you know? Sterling Holdings? Yes. Your brother negotiated the deal 18 months ago. It's scheduled to close on February 28th, pending approval from the board of directors. And who's on the board? Your father was chairman until his death. His position passes to whoever inherits his controlling share of the company. Currently, the board is evenly split. 3 directors want the sale. 3 oppose it. Your vote, as the new chairman, would break the tie. What's the sale price? $32 million. I did the math in my head. So if Graham and Claire own the company, they each get $16 million. If I own it, they get their $200,000 inheritance and nothing else from the sale. That's correct. And if they can buy me out for $5 million, they profit $11 million each. Yes. What happens to the employees under Sterling? Hartley's voice was quiet. The Windsor facility closes immediately. 80 jobs eliminated in the first quarter. More layoffs likely to follow at other locations. Sterling has a pattern. They buy companies, strip out costs, then resell the streamlined business at a profit. I thought about my father's letter. The business is broken, son. It needs someone willing to tear it down and rebuild it properly. Mr. Hartley, I said, I need you to tell me the truth. Can I stop this sale? As chairman, you have the controlling vote. You could block it. But then what? Graham and Claire are running the day-to-day operations. They'll fight me. Yes, they will. It will be expensive, messy. You'd be fighting family in court while trying to run a business you haven't been part of for 14 years. Tell me something. Why did my father wait so long? If he knew Graham was planning this sale, why didn't he stop it himself? He tried. Graham delayed, kept pushing the board meetings, kept telling your father they needed more time to review the offer. Your father got sicker. The cancer spread to his liver last October. By December, he was too weak to fight. He died January 15th. The sale was scheduled to close exactly 6 weeks later. Graham timed it. I believe so. Yes. I sat in that hotel room and thought about my father, about the man he'd been and the man he'd wanted to be, about the letter he'd written, asking me to fix what he'd broken. I thought about the 120 workers in Windsor who'd lose their jobs, the families that depended on those paychecks. I thought about how easy it would be to just take the $5 million and walk away. Nobody would blame me. Graham and Claire had been the ones to stay. They'd earned the business, in a way, but they hadn't earned the right to sell it out from under people who'd given years of their lives to it. I called Graham Monday morning. I've made my decision, I said. And? I could hear the tension in his voice. I need to see the business first. I want a tour. I want to see the facilities, meet the managers. If I'm signing away my inheritance, I want to see what I'm giving up. Silence. Then, when? Tomorrow. And Graham? I want to see everything, including the Windsor facility. That's not necessary. It is to me. Tomorrow, or the deal's off. He agreed. He didn't have a choice. Tuesday morning. Graham picked me up at my hotel in his Mercedes. We drove in, near silence. The Toronto facility was in an industrial park in Scarborough. Modern building, clean, inside. It was efficient. Professional. Graham introduced me to managers, showed me the warehouse operations, the logistics systems. Everything ran smoothly. This is good, I said. You've built something solid here. Graham allowed himself a small smile. We have, and under Sterling, it'll get even better. They have capital to expand. New markets. And the Windsor facility? The smile disappeared. That's tomorrow. It's a 3-hour drive. We drove to Windsor Wednesday morning. The facility was older, grittier. It sat near the river, a brick building that had probably been there since the 70s. The parking lot was full. The morning shift. Inside, it was different from Toronto. Less automated, more hands-on. Workers moved between stations, loading orders, checking inventory. I saw faces, people, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Graham introduced me to the facility manager, a woman in her 50s named Patricia Chen. She'd worked there for 26 years. David's considering our sale to Sterling, Graham told her. I wanted him to see all our operations. Patricia's expression tightened, but she stayed professional. She showed us around, pointed out the efficiency improvements they'd made, the quality control processes. She was proud of this place. "How many people work here?" I asked. 123, she said. "Most have been here more than 10 years. A lot of families, fathers and sons. Some second generation. What happens to them if Sterling buys the company?" Patricia looked at Graham. Graham's jaw tightened. "The facility would be consolidated," he said. "Operations moved to Toronto and Montreal. More efficient." "You mean closed," I said. "It's business, David. It's not personal." I looked at Patricia. Did my father know about this plan? She hesitated, then nodded. He fought it. Told Graham it was wrong to throw away loyal workers for a bigger profit. They had a huge argument about it last summer. Your father stormed out of a board meeting, said he wouldn't approve it. "But he's gone now," Graham said quietly. "And the business has to move forward." I spent the rest of the day at the Windsor facility. I talked to workers, listened to their stories. Met a man named Robert Fournier who'd worked there for 32 years. His son worked in shipping. They'd both lose their jobs. I met a woman named Sandra Rodriguez, who was 2 years from retirement. She'd been counting on her pension. Under Sterling's plan, she'd get a severance package that was a fraction of what she'd earned. These were real people, real lives, not just line items in a profit and loss statement. That night, back in Toronto, I called Graham. "I'm not signing," I said. Silence. Then, "What?" "I'm not signing your contract. I'm keeping the inheritance. I'm blocking the sale. You can't be serious." "David, this is $5 million. I know what it is." "For what? For a facility that's bleeding money? For workers who'd be better off finding new jobs anyway? You're being sentimental. You're being stupid." "Maybe. But it's my decision. This is because of Dad's letter, isn't it?" Graham's voice rose. "He got to you. Even from the grave, he's still manipulating you. He filled your head with guilt, and now you're going to throw away millions because of some idealistic nonsense. Or maybe he reminded me what actually matters." "What matters is family," Graham shouted. "Claire and I have been here. We've been the ones dealing with his cancer, his moods, his impossible standards. You left. You abandoned us. And now you're going to swoop in and steal everything we've worked for?" "He left it to me, Graham. That was his choice. Because he was sick. Because he wasn't thinking clearly. Or because he knew exactly what you were planning. He knew you'd sell out those workers for a profit. He knew you'd choose money over people, just like he taught you to. And he wanted someone to stop you." The line went dead. Graham had hung up. The next morning, I met with Hartley. We started the legal process to execute the will. Graham and Claire's lawyers filed objections immediately, claiming undue influence, diminished capacity, all the standard arguments. It took 6 months to settle. 6 months of depositions, document reviews, expert testimonies. Graham and Claire fought hard. They brought in psychiatrists to question my father's mental state. They dug up every argument, every disagreement, trying to prove I'd alienated him from them. But the will was solid. My father had been evaluated by multiple doctors. His mind had been sharp until the last few weeks. The judge ruled in my favor. By the time I took control of the company, it was late August. The sale to Sterling had fallen through. They'd moved on to other targets. The first thing I did was kill the Windsor closure plan. The second thing was to meet with Patricia Chen and ask her what the facility needed to be competitive. The third thing was to fire Graham. He didn't go quietly. Threatened lawsuits. Told anyone who'd listen that I was destroying our father's legacy. Claire quit in solidarity. They both walked away with their $200,000 and nothing more. The business struggled at first. We lost some contracts. Some customers didn't like the uncertainty, but slowly we rebuilt. We implemented the ethical practices I'd fought for 14 years earlier. We stopped the under-the-table payments. We treated workers fairly. We paid better wages. It cost us short-term profit, but we gained something more valuable. We gained a reputation. Within 2 years, Mackenzie Industrial Supply was known as one of the most ethical companies in the sector. Customers wanted to work with us because they trusted us. Workers wanted to work for us because we treated them with dignity. 3 years after I took over, we were more profitable than we'd been under Graham. Not because we'd cut corners, but because we'd done things right. I'm 66 now. I still run the company, though I've started training a successor. not family this time. I've learned that lesson. But someone who shares the values. Someone who understands that business isn't just about profit. It's about people. I think about my father's letter sometimes, about his apology, about the stones we carry. I forgave him, not because he deserved it, but because he was right. Carrying anger is exhausting. It weighs you down. It keeps you from moving forward. I think about Graham and Claire too. We don't speak. They didn't come to the company's anniversary celebration last year. Didn't send cards at Christmas. The rift is permanent now. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. $5 million would have been enough to retire comfortably. I could have avoided the fights, the stress, the years of rebuilding. But then I go to Windsor. I see the facility still running. I see Robert Fournier training his grandson now, third generation. I see Sandra Rodriguez enjoying her retirement with a full pension. I see 123 families who still have their livelihoods. And I know I made the right choice. Money can buy comfort, security, freedom from worry. But it can't buy the knowledge that you did the right thing. It can't buy the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and respect what you see. My father understood that. Eventually. It took him too long. It cost him too much. But he understood it. The inheritance he left me wasn't really $23 million. It was a second chance. A chance to prove that principle matters more than profit, that people matter more than money, that sometimes the hard path is the only path worth taking. If you're facing a choice like mine, here's what I learned. Easy money that costs your integrity is the most expensive money you'll ever make. The price you pay isn't counted in dollars. It's counted in sleep you lose, in reflections you avoid, in the person you become when you choose convenience over character. Stand for something. Even when it costs you, especially when it costs you, because the alternative is standing for nothing, and that's a price no one should be willing to pay. Do the right thing, not the easy thing, not the profitable thing, the right thing. And if you're lucky, you'll sleep soundly. You'll walk with your head up. You'll build something worth more than money. You'll build a legacy you can be proud of.